Okay, hello boys and girls, my fellow friends, my brothers and sisters from another mother. In this video we're talking about color. So in my other two videos I did touch a bit on here. In this video I try to give a little bit more of what you can do as like a homework kind of thing. So first we start on a recap. So to recap, we have CMY, RGB. CMY is subtractive. RGB is additive. Alright, so what this means, if you can't visualize it, you take out your phone and then you Google image search RGB and CMY, and then you'll find some examples of what it actually means. Alright, so RGB, CMY, the more you add, the more you increase the intensity. CMY, the more you add, the more you subtract. That's basically what it means. So hopefully before you prep, or as a way to prep before your service and before you program, you already know what colors you want to program, or you have it in your mind that you don't need to think about it lah. So RGB and CMYK, the way I like to think about the color wheel, what are your two circles, is that first you start with let's say I start with thinking about red. Then after red, what's the closest color I can think of? There'll be orange, followed by yellow, because red and yellow makes orange. And then after yellow we have green. Yeah, and then after green is something like a teal, turquoise, blue, I mean something like a cyan, like a turquoise. I like to call it teal, turquoise. And okay, so followed by blue, and after blue is like a purple, or also a magenta as we call it. And then after that, purple is closest to red. So this is where you trying to remember or recalling your color mixing helps, because things like red and blue mix purple, that's how you remember it. And then like yellow, red and yellow, orange kind of thing. So knowing that opposite colors, red and green is kind of opposite, purple, yellow, blue and orange kind of thing. So so in the same way, not exactly the same, but in the same way, we have our color wheel. Red, can you see? Red, RGB, red, green, blue, and then we also have our cyan, magenta, yellow. So this will really help you in the way that what do you get when you mix red and green? What do you get when you mix red and blue, blue and green, and cyan, yellow, cyan, magenta, yellow, magenta? So things like that. So you can start with red and green. Red and green, if you're not sure, you can always refer to Google. So take a look at this. Red and green, yellow, blue and green, cyan, red and blue, magenta. So same thing for the CMY. Very similar way of working. So let's fill in the gaps here. Magenta, red and blue, magenta, blue and green, yellow, right? No, blue and green, sign. Let's get this wrong. This one is yellow, red and green, yellow. So cyan and magenta, you get a bluish color. Yellow and cyan, green. Yellow and magenta, red. So once you do this a couple of times, you get used to it, and once you start mixing it a couple of times, you will start to remember. So how I kind of remember is blue, cyan, magenta, green, and somewhere around here. Actually, here, yeah. Green, cyan, blue is a cool color. Yellow, red, magenta is kind of warm. But I know that yellow and magenta especially, is some kind of like a coolish tone to it. So once I add cyan to it, I get a blue look. Once I add a cyan to yellow, it looks very cool as well on the green side. So I know that yellow is a warm color, magenta is a warm color as well, and then when I mix these two warm, I get red. And pretty straightforward. If I want orange, how do I get it? Orange is somewhere between red and yellow, right? It's opposite of the blue here, so I'm trying to find it in the middle here, things like that. So we don't really have much on this RGB except for the LED bars on the floor at shine, but after we move the capacitor is half of the lights over there, so you can start to get used to it. So let's go back to our color harmonies. Whatever. Color harmonies, you don't have to remember exactly how it works. Don't have to remember the name, but remember that how we formulate colors, the concept of it. If you remember the name, that's good. You can communicate, and you can like tell people, hey, you know what color harmony using, or what, this kind of things, but it's not necessary. So remember that now the most common one is analogous. Analogous means that similar color. Also very similar to analogous is monochromatic. The difference between that is that, let's say monochromatic magenta, I just use only magenta. I have a very bright magenta, I have very dark magenta, I have very saturated magenta, I have not so saturated magenta, but it's all magenta within the same line of the color spectrum. Whereas for analogous, I can use magenta, I can use blue, I can use red. So probably three color spectrum, or 3 colors on the spectrum, and then I can use different intensities and saturation. So, and then the third most common one that we will use is the complementary. So complementary is simply having your colors on the opposite side of the wheel. So I would say don't necessarily need to be exactly, just understand the concept that you use one color and then you find a contrasting color maybe on the opposite side or just slightly off is fine. No one would fault you for anything. What I want you to remember actually is how you split your color, how you choose how much color of each that you're using. So at the beginning or for a start, 50% split between, let's say you want to use a blue and a yellow, or blue and a orange, or blue and a red. 50-50 is a very straightforward way to do it. As a start, that's fine, but I recommend choosing one dominant color. So one dominant color, let's say I use a magenta as my dominant color. So after this, so magenta maybe will take up 80% of my color, and then the last 20% I can use what's the opposite of magenta? Something like a green. Yeah, since I have a green marker here, so green. So what this will look like, maybe it's instead of this is like a dun, dun, dun. Like longer, right? So other than magenta, I can also have because magenta, I can have some reds, can have some blues and greens and stuff like that, but not necessary. You can have a white as well, so you can have like a white somewhere in the middle here, and can go for a 60-40, and maybe you use 60% magenta, the rest of the 40% you split between red and blue. So another thing to remember is how you mix your color. So going back to the CMY color space, let me do this. CMY color space. So remember, subtractive, what this means is that 0, 0, 0, you start off with nothing on your color. Then as you add 100 on cyan, 100 on magenta, and then you add 100 on your yellow, you don't get any color. So that's what it means, and because of this, I will limit to say about 100 total of your color mixing. So let's say you do 50 cyan, 50 magenta, and 0 yellow, or you can do like 20, 80, 0, things like that, 60, 40, 0, and you can go over a little bit just fine, but just know that the more you mix in, the darker or your dimmer your light will be, because it really removes all the intensity of the light, because it blocks it. There's something in between lah. So that's how to think of your colors. And so also another thing, don't need to go all the way 100. So less saturated is fine. It just means that instead of going very bright, very intense on your color, you can take something that looks a bit whitish. So you have your CMY, maybe you do 20% cyan, 0, 0, and it looks like a very light blue. You can try cyan yellow, maybe a 20% cyan and 20% yellow. You'll probably get a slight wash of green. Can do 20% magenta, 20% yellow, and then you'll get a pinkish, pinkish color. And then these are very good to complement your main dominant color. So let's say you're going as a red, especially for red is a difficult color because to get red, or to get a really red, you need 100 magenta, 100 yellow, and the red is nice, but it's going to be very dark. So that's why, let's say you pair it with a white color, your whites are going to be very harsh compared to how your reds are turning out. So I would say use your very saturated lights and colors more sparingly, so that you don't compromise on the intensity levels overall. So going back to this, let's say red is your main color. You can set it as your main color. Maybe you do 60. You'll probably get a pinkish red, the not so saturated pinkish red, and that's fine. This is maybe your one of your colors you can use. Another one, you get the very strong saturated one, of course, and 100. That's your super red with pinkish, and then your red. This is very red, and then you can do another one that leans more to white, or you can play with magenta as well, or you can play with orange. So you can go for the analogous color scheme. So red being your dominant color here, and then how does this work? Red being your dominant color, and then you can take a bit of magenta here, take a bit of yellow here. So what would that look like is, let's say you want to take some magenta, you can do 50 magenta, 0 on the rest. You take some yellow that you try to lean towards the orange, so maybe 80% yellow and 20% magenta. So this is orange, this is magenta. So this color scheme here is a starting point. So you set this off, you'll get you like 80% of the way there. If you got time, then you can maybe take a few seconds each one, and then just tweak plus 10%, minus 10% each, and then just lock it in. The look is already almost there, yeah. And then how does this translate to your lights specifically? This being your lighting, what do you call it? Lighting plot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 lights here, and these are my spots, and then this is my washers, and then same thing, my front of house here, no need to draw them, and not forgetting my fall on the floor. So just quickly, I'm gonna draw this in a bit of a 3D. So this is the brick, and then so one spot here, one spot here, five at the back, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so not forgetting my on the floor, smaller ones because they are quite old. Okay, so I have this. First of all, I want to highlight that for my two on the corners, because we usually point it to the stage here, even for the back ones as well. So this used to be at the back, like around here, right? And when you point it here like that, you're casting the light. You have a heart-shaped face, long hair. Oh no, I'm ruining her face. Okay, whatever. So when the light is further back, when it used to be, I don't know how long ago, I think a few years ago, so it's fine. The light will be like a silhouette. Whereas when the light is on these corners here, the problem comes when we are shining it on the face or at the same subject, but because it is at a different what's this called, from a different angle. This one, just to illustrate, let's say our singer is here. Really long arms singer, and shine it this way, and then this one shining on this way. It's not going to be the same if the light is on the back, whereas if the light is on the more in front here lah, it's gonna cast light coming on this side of the face, coming on this side of the face. So you have to be very mindful that your spots are not cool colors. So avoid your green, cyan, blue, and try to avoid your magenta. I would say the safest thing you can do is to just keep it in CTO. CTO, which means color temperature orange, so that it helps to enhance the skin tones from the side. Or number 2, use a whiter neutral color. So for a start, we can use the lowest one, 50%. So 50% and 0. You can try this. 50% magenta on the sides here, and then after that we see whether it's too saturated. Can lower it to maybe 20%. So white doesn't mean white. Maybe it can be 20% cyan, 20% magenta, 20% mix of anything you want, and things like that. So the rest here, because they are shining from the back, the purpose is to draw that silhouette on the shoulders, on the head, the top of the head, the side. If it is shining from the side, it is not as crucial. You can use almost any color that you want. Just makes it stand out. Oh shit, cramp. I would say use a cool color so that our face lights here, we are usually using CTO 50%, which is a orangey color. So the purpose is to enhance the skin tones, and the contrast to your orange somewhere around here is blue. If you don't want blue, you can use cyan. If you don't want cyan, you can use magenta. If you want to go off, you can use green. But the main purpose is to draw that that silhouette. So imagine you are painting the top edges, the side edges of the people singing here, things like that, in blue and pink and orange or whatever. So for that, I wouldn't recommend a red. Because reds are dark. We can try the pink, 60-60 pink on the back spots here. So that because they are on stage, I would want to use the reds for the washes, the wash beams. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wash beams can be a mix of this red and this orange. Why I use the red is because they're gonna most likely come out towards the audience here and here, and I can use less intense colors, or not less intense, less intense lights, because red is darker, and when I shine on my audience, I usually prefer not to go so high. I can go anything from 50% when I'm shining directly at them, or I can maybe try to go reserve 100 for only very high moments, and then bring it down almost straight away, so that it doesn't get too distracting and glaring. So red is good for that because it cuts off that intensity just because it is red. And I can mix it with the orange, and it complements quite well. So imagine some of your lights being orange, and then some of your lights being red. Alright, okay, what else can I talk about here? Yes, so one dominant color first, and stick to less colors. So if you are short on time, right, just group all these colors. I would say just group all these colors together, make them the same color. Group the other colors the same color, there's minus, maybe instead of 100 you use 80, and then these two colors, instead of 80 you go 20. So it's quite simple. Or actually maybe use 100 for the wash beams that you intend to shine out to the audience, if you are using that to shine the audience. So it depends on how you use it. if you are using the these 4 wash beams to shine down as a wash, then you can make it to 80, and the ones that you are shining on the audience, you make it 100, so that you make it less saturated. Okay. Yeah. So anything else, I'll make it in another video. I'm just tired of talking for now. Okay, bye.